The Lord High Commissioner to the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland is the British Sovereign's personal representative to the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, reflecting the Church's role as the national Church of Scotland, and the Sovereign's role as protector and member of the Church. History. Lord High Commissioners were appointed to the Parliament of the Kingdom of Scotland between 1603 and 1707 as the Sovereign's personal representative. The Act of Union 1707 made this function redundant, but a Lord High Commissioner to the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland has been appointed each year, is the Sovereign's personal representative since 1690. Prior to 1929, the General Assembly was held in the former Tolbooth Highlands St John's Church on Edinburgh's Royal Mile. A throne was provided for the use of the Lord High Commissioner. The union of the Church of Scotland and the United Free Church of Scotland took place in 1929. Since 1930, the General Assembly has always met in the former United Free Church Assembly Hall on the Mound, Edinburgh. The Lord High Commissioner sits on the throne in the Royal Gallery, which is technically outside the Assembly Hall, symbolizing the independence of the Church in matters spiritual from state interference. The very first assembly of the newly united Church in 1929 was held in halls in Annandale Street, Edinburgh, the only building large enough. Difficulty in accessing the Royal Gallery in this temporary location led to a seemingly trivial but nevertheless embarrassing dispute over protocol, whereby the Lord High Commissioner would have had to enter through the Assembly Hall itself, an act of symbolic state interference in the hard-won spiritual independence of the Church. The moderator, Dr. John White, was adamant that this would be unacceptable, even suggesting that the post of Lord High Commissioner could be dispensed with. Eventually a suitable arrangement was agreed upon and the office of Lord High Commissioner has survived. Functions. The office has always been largely ceremonial. The person appointed invariably has a distinguished record of public service in Scotland as well as having close connections with the Church, often being an elder of the Church of Scotland. On behalf of the Sovereign, the Lord High Commissioner attends the General Assembly, makes opening and closing addresses to the Assembly, and carries out a number of official visits and ceremonial functions, not all related to the Church of Scotland. At the formal opening of the General Assembly, the principal clerk reads out the royal warrant appointing the Lord High Commissioner. The Lord High Commissioner is then invited to address the Assembly. All ministers, elders and deacons appointed by presbyteries to attend the General Assembly are known as commissioners, and have voting powers. The Lord High Commissioner has no vote, nor may he/she intervene in debates. Apart from his/her opening and closing addresses, the Lord High Commissioner makes no further intervention in Assembly debates, but will be in daily attendance for at least part of each day's business. Following the Assembly, the Lord High Commissioner personally informs the Queen about the business of the week. Form of address. While the General Assembly is meeting, the Lord High Commissioner is treated as if a regent. By custom, he/she is addressed as Your Grace, and is greeted with a bow curtsy. When the Princess Royal was appointed in 1996, she was styled as Her Grace for the duration rather than her normal dynastic style, Her Royal Highness, because the Lord High Commissioner is ranked higher in the order of precedence. If a woman is appointed to the office, the alternative title, Her Majesty's High Commissioner, may, if requested, be used. Margaret Herbison was the first woman to hold the post. Residence. Since 1834, the Lord High Commissioner has resided at the Palace of Holyrood House and gave a garden party for commissioners to the General Assembly on the Saturday afternoon of Assembly Week and other hospitality. He/she is entitled to use the Scottish Royal Banner flag. and has precedence immediately after the sovereign and the Duke of Edinburgh and before the rest of the royal family. Even his or her official car receives special treatment and, except for the Queen's, is the only vehicle in the country not to have number plates. However, the plates are reattached during the closing speech of the Assembly, and the Lord High Commissioner returns to his royal but temporary residence as an ordinary citizen. In recent years, the Garden Party has been replaced by the Heart and Soul event, held in Princes Street Gardens and attended by the Lord High Commissioner. Household. There is a household of His Grace the Lord High Commissioner. This includes the purse-bearer, chaplain, aides-de-camp, a lady-in-waiting, extra lady-in-waiting, and maids of honor. The mace-bearer bears the Lord President's mace, the old Exchequer mace. The master of the horse is no longer appointed. The subordinate staff further includes the assistant to the purse-bearer and a lady's maid. The household make no financial demands on the funds of the Church of Scotland, which are devoted exclusively to the parish and mission work of the Kirk. List of purse-bearers 2001 present. Tom Murray W.S. 1988 to 2001. Robin Blair LVO W.S. 1969 to 1988. Sir Charles Fraser KCVO 1961 to 1969. Sir Alistair Blair KCVO TDJPWS 1959 1960. David Charles Scott Moncrief CVO TDWS 1930 to 1958. LT Colonel Sir Edward Damon Stevenson KCVO MC. List of Lords High Commissioner. 1580, the Laird of London Amp, Sir James Balfour of Pittendreaker, James Halliburton. 1581, William Cunningham, 4th Laird of Caprington. April 1582, Ralph Kerr. October 1582, James Halliburton and Amp. Colonel William Stewart of Houston. Incomplete. 1639, the Earl of Traquair. 1640, none. 1641, the Earl of Wemyss. 1642, the Earl of Dunfermline. 1643, Sir Thomas Hope. 1644 to 1645, none. 1646, letter from the King regretting that no commissioner could be sent. 1647 to 1650, none. 1651, the Earl of Balcarres. 1652, none. 1653, none. 1653 to 1690, no General Assembly. 1690, the Lord Carmichael. 1692, the Earl of Lothian. 1694 to 1699, the Lord Carmichael. 1700, the Viscount Seafield. 1701, the Earl of Annandale. 1702, the Earl of Marchmont. 1703, the Earl of Seafield. 1704, the Lord Rost. 1705, the Marquess of Annandale. 1706 to 1710, the first Earl of Glasgow. 1711, the Marquess of Annandale. 1712 to 1714, the first Duke of Atholl. 1715 to 1721, the Earl of Rothes. 1722, the Earl of Loudon. 1723, the first Earl of Hopetoun. 1724, the Earl of Findlater. 1725 to 1726, the Earl of Loudon. 1727, the Earl of Findlater. 1728, the Earl of Loudon. 1729, the Earl of Buchan. 1730 to 1731, the Earl of Loudon. 1732 to 1738, the Marquess of Lothian. 1739 to 1740, the Earl of Hindford. 1741 to 1753, the 5th Earl of Leven. 1754, the 2nd Earl of Hopetoun. 1755 to 1763, the Lord Cathcart. 1764 to 1772, the 3rd Earl of Glasgow. 1773 to 1776, the Lord Cathcart, 1777 to 1782, the Earl of Dalhousie, 1783 to 1801, the 6th Earl of Leven, 1802 to 1816, the Lord Napier, 1817 to 1818, the Earl of Errol, 1819 to 1824, the Earl of Morton, 1825 to 1830, the Lord Forbes, 1831 to 1841, the Lord Belhaven and Stenton, 1842 to 1846, the Marquess of Bute, 1847 to 1851, the Lord Belhaven and Stenton, 1852, the Earl of Mansfield and Mansfield, 1853 to 1857, the Lord Belhaven and Stenton, 1858 to 1859, the Earl of Mansfield and Mansfield, 1860 to 1866, the Lord Belhaven and Stenton, 1867 to 1868, the Earl of Haddington, 1869 to 1871, the 10th Earl of Stair, 1872 to 1873, the Earl of Airlie, 1874 to 1875, the Earl of Rosslyn, 1876 to 1877, the Earl of Galloway, 1878 to 1880, the Earl of Rosslyn, 1881 to 1885, the Earl of Aberdeen, 1886, the Lord Thurlow, 1887 to 1889, the 7th Earl of Hopetoun, 1889 to 1892, the Marquess of Tweeddale, 1893 to 1895, the Marquess of Breadalbane, 1896 to 1897, the Marquess of Tweeddale, 1898 to 1906, the 11th Earl of Leven, 1907 to 1909, the 11th Lord Kinnaird, 1910, the 11th Earl of Stair, 1911 to 1914, the Lord Glenconner, 1915, the Earl of Aberdeen, 1916–1917, the 5th Duke of Montrose, 1918–1920, the 8th Duke of Atholl, 1921–1922, the Duke of Sutherland, 1923, the Lord Elphinstone, 1924, James Brown MP, 1925–1926, the 10th Earl of Elgin, 1927–1928, the 12th Earl of Stair, 1929, HRH the Duke of York, 1930–1931, the RT Hon James Brown MP, 1932, Sir Ian Colquhoun, 1933–1934, John Buchan, 1935, HRH the Duke of Kent, 1936–1937, the 12th Lord Kinnaird, 1938–1939, LT Colonel Sir John Gilmore, 2nd BT, 1941–1941, Sir Ian Colquhoun, 1942–1943, the 6th Duke of Montrose, 1944–1945, the Marquess of Linlithgard, 1946–1947, George Mathers MP, 1948, the RT Hon George Mathers MP, 1949, HRH the Duke of Gloucester, 1950, the Viscount Cunningham of Hindhope, 1951, the RT Hon George Mathers MP, 1952, the Viscount Cunningham of Hindhope, 1953 to 1955, the Duke of Hamilton, 1956 1957, the RT Hon Walter Elliot MP, 1958, the Duke of Hamilton, 1959 1960, the Earl of Wemyss and March, 1961 to 1963, HRH the Duke of Gloucester, 1964, General Sir Richard O'Connor, 1965 1966, Lord Bercy, 1967 1968, the Lord Reith, 1969, HM the Queen attended in person. 1970, the RT Hon Peggy Herbison, 1971 1972, the Lord Clydesmuir, 1973 1974, the Lord Ballantrae, 1975 1976, Sir Hector Maclennan, 1977, the Earl of Wemyss and March, 1978 1979, the RT Hon Willie Ross, 1980 1981, the 11th Earl of Elgin, 1982 1983, Colonel Sir John Gilmore, 3rd BT, 1984 1985, the Lord Maclean, 1986 1987, the Viscount of Arbuthnot, 1988 1989, Captain Sir Ian Tennant, 1991 1991, the RT Hon Lord Ross, Lord Justice Clerk, 1992 1993, the Lord Macfarlane of Bearsden, 1994 1995, Lady Fraser, 1996, HRH the Princess Royal, 1997, the Lord Macfarlane of Bearsden, 1998 1999, the Lord Hogg of Cumbernauld, 2000, HRH the Prince Charles, Duke of Rothesay, 2001, the Viscount Younger of Lecky, 2002, HM the Queen attended in person, 2003-2004, the Lord Steele of Akewood, 2005-2006, the Lord Mackay of Clashfern, 2007, HRH the Duke of York, 2008-2009, the RT Hon George Read, 2010-2011, the Lord Wilson of Lyon, 2012-2013, the Lord Selkirk of Douglas, 2014, HRH the Earl of Wessex, 2015-2016, Lord Hope of Craighead.